Mr. Shifty is a top-down action game about a teleporting thief trying to complete a heist in one of the world's most secure facilities. Using your ability to teleport short distances and punch anything that moves, you infiltrate floor after floor of seemingly never-ending resistance. That's pretty much it for the story of Mr. Shifty. You are the titular silent protagonist, and you teleport and punch things until you reach your objective. There's an overall goal to obtain mega plutonium from the obvious evil corporate bad guy McEvil Pants, but all in all, you just run around and punch, and hope you survive. It's a fast-paced game with a little wiggle room for puzzle solving. This review will mainly be focusing on the Switch version, but the game will also be available on Steam. Graphically speaking, this is obviously no Breath of the Wild.
Say what?
But the graphics still look really good. Mr. Shifty stands out with his red hat and blue coat, bad guys stand out with their bright suits and office attire, and the environments aren't cluttered with unneeded effects and extras. The stages are all pretty much the same looking office styles, with the occasional variants of a protected bunker or over-the-top rich guy stuff, like statues and giant aquarium floors. Just look at that shark! But the layouts of the levels are varied enough to keep the look from being overwhelmingly samey. Overall, everything is clear and crisp to look at, which is important when you're in the middle of a huge fistfight. Behind all this action is a kick and rock techno mix that keeps the adrenaline pumping while you're beating up the bad guys. Despite the heavy tone, it never overpowers the sound effects in action, so it does its job perfectly as background music. The sound effects range from Mr. Shifty's footsteps to bad guys' guns and everything in between. Sound is crisp and clean and doesn't interfere with the experience. The Switch version of the game supports multiple configurations, including a single and double Joy-Con, either docked or in tabletop mode, handheld mode, and Pro Controller. I personally don't have a Pro Controller to test with, but usage has been confirmed by the developer. The controls are fairly straightforward. With any two-stick setup, the left stick or D-pad will move Mr. Shifty. The down-face button or B button will teleport him to the aiming dot that constantly leads him. The left button or Y button lets loose your fists of fury. The right button or A button will pick up and throw certain objects. Finally, the right stick will let you move the camera to peek around at what's near you. If you use any single Joy-Con configuration, you'll be sacrificing the ability to spy ahead, unless there's something I haven't found with the other buttons, but I doubt it. Also, if you start the game with the left Joy-Con, the only way to get back to the home screen is to put your Switch into sleep mode with its power button, then wake it back up. The right Joy-Con will not connect when the left is used as the primary. If you primarily use the right Joy-Con, you lose the ability to take awesome screenshots. Obviously, you can do all this with any dual Joy-Con setup and the Pro Controller. Gameplay is fairly straightforward. When you arrive in a level, Nyx tells you what your goal is, and then you beat up any bad guys and dodge hazards until you reach your goal. All enemies must be put down before the door to the next room will open, and in some cases you'll be backtracking after you find your goal. But you won't be backtracking into empty rooms. New enemies and hazards wait for you on your return trip as well, so there's never a moment where you aren't at risk. One thing to keep in mind is that you are a glass cannon. One hit and you're out. The only exception is if you hit enough enemies to charge your meter, and when it's full, a bullet comes close to you, it activates a quick moment of slow time. Sometimes this might save you. Other times, it might confuse you. Most of the time, it's a saving grace though. Using a combination of stealth, teleportation, and beating the crap out of everything, you'll make your way through the levels towards your ultimate goal, the Mega Plutonium. There isn't a whole lot to Mr. Shifty besides the story levels themselves that I've found in the time I've played, which appears to be roughly halfway. But that isn't a bad thing. The ability to replay levels for better times and fewer deaths is incentive enough for the speedrunners and perfectionists. If any extra is unlocked after finishing the story, I personally don't know yet, but the story levels have been an absolute blast so far. Mr. Shifty feels right at home on the Switch, in any play format. The only issues I've noticed are the occasional body glitch with ragdolled enemies, and a small frame stutter when a lot happens on screen. The stuttering I only noticed when playing docked. Handheld mode seems to stay smooth. None of the issues I encountered put a damper on the gameplay, as the action kept on rolling without causing me much trouble. All in all, Mr. Shifty is an adrenaline-pumped arcade experience that reminds me of the days of Smash TV and similar games. Tons of action, seemingly endless waves of enemies, and a very rewarding and precise control scheme all make for a fun romp through this corporate stronghold. At $15, it's a well-priced romp as well. The game is also available on Steam if you'd prefer to play it on PC, but then you wouldn't have the ability to potentially ride an elevator in the game while you ride one in real life. Aside from the small technical issues, Mr. Shifty is a terrifically fun action game that can easily be played in small chunks, which allows it to benefit from the Switch's portability. 4.5 out of 5. Thank you for watching this Raven review. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, thank you for playing, and I'll see you next game. Bye-bye!